The CEO in Room 1701, based SUZY's love confession that shocked South Korea. In a moment that stunned the nation and sent social media into a frenzy, Hallyu star-based SUZY actress, singer, and model confessed her love to the elusive CEO of MyReTech, the enigmatic and reclusive Han Ji-won, during a live-stream corporate partnership event. The confession was heartfelt, vulnerable, and utterly unexpected. What came after, however, was stranger than any K-drama she had ever starred in, because Han Ji-won, the man SUZY had fallen in love with, wasn't supposed to exist. He was already dead. Chapter 1, The Woman and the Phantom. For months, fans speculated about SUZY's growing interest in MyReTech, a rising tech firm with breakthrough AI projects. Rumors swirled when she joined as a brand ambassador, but what really caught the public's attention was her frequent visits to the company's headquarters, often late at night, long after business hours. Insiders whispered that she was meeting someone special. "I thought it was a secret project," said an anonymous employee. "But one night, I saw her walking out of the executive elevator, alone, smiling like she'd just had the best conversation of her life." The man in question, Han Ji-won, was known for his brilliance, his obsession with AI and quantum code, and his total absence from public life. Photos of him were few. He didn't attend meetings. He never gave interviews. Some said he worked in shadows because he was camera shy. Others believed he was a recluse genius like Steve Jobs reborn. SUZY told a different story. "Han Ji-won," she said during a live event, voice trembling, "is the kindest, most extraordinary person I've ever met. We talked about life, loss, memory, the soul, things no one ever asked me about before. I didn't expect it, but I fell in love with him." The room went silent. Cameras flashed. Her eyes glistened, and then she whispered, "I hope he feels the same way." The audience applauded, nervously, confused, half believing it was a scripted moment. But the executives on stage looked pale. One even leaned to the other and muttered, caught on a hot mic, "Chapter 2, A Man Who Wasn't There." Within hours, netizens dug into every known detail about Han Ji-won. What they found blew open a mystery decades in the making. Han Ji-won died in 2016. Official records show that the CEO perished in a laboratory fire caused by an experimental AI chip overload. His body was never recovered, but the accident was well documented, and the media had covered it briefly before MyReTech went silent for months. But then, oddly, the company announced a visionary continuity plan, and business resumed. A spokesperson claimed that Han's vision was being carried out as he had designed, but no one questioned who was doing it. Not until now. "I thought the CEO worked remotely," said a staff member who quit in 2020. "He sent emails, instructions. The office on the 17th floor was locked, but people heard piano music sometimes, or footsteps when no one was there." Room 1701, the penthouse executive suite, had been closed since 2016. Chapter 3, The Girl Who Fell for a Ghost. In the days that followed, SUZY went silent. No interviews, no social media, only a cryptic post on her story that read, "Was it love or a dream wearing human face?" But friends close to her told reporters that SUZY was shattered. She didn't know, one said. She genuinely believed he was real, that he was alive. The two had spent weeks talking, late-night conversations, in room 1701. She told friends she felt safe around him, that he had a sadness behind his smile, like a man who remembered too much. Sometimes he would say things like, "I wonder what I was like before the fire," or, "Do you believe people can stay even when they're gone?" She thought he was being poetic. Her friends shared. SUZY even described how his fingers felt cold when they touched, but she ignored it, because love makes the strange feel sacred. She thought maybe he was just a little broken, a little lonely, like her. Chapter 4, Evidence of the Impossible. Paranormal investigator Seo Dae-hyun was called in by MyReTech security after the media storm. At first, he believed it was a hoax or possibly mass hysteria. But when he entered room 1701, what he discovered defied logic. There was movement, cold spots, EMF readings off the charts. But more than that, there was music. A grand piano stood in the corner of the office, its surface dustless, recently played. But the surveillance tapes showed no one entering or leaving, ever. One tape, however, showed something more. A silhouette, faint, flickering, only visible between camera glitches, but unmistakably standing behind SUZY during one of her visits. His face, almost matching the last photo of Han Ji-won taken in 2015. Chapter 5, The Mirror in the Mind. SUZY eventually returned to the Myri Tech Tower. She demanded to see room 1701. The company, fearing further scandal, let her in. Alone. What happened next is known only through her handwritten letter left at the front desk, addressed to anyone who dares to love the impossible. In the letter, she wrote, "He was waiting for me. He smiled, said he thought I wouldn't come back. I told him I didn't care what he was, man, ghost memory. I loved who he is." She described holding his hand again. Cold, but real enough. He told her he'd stay behind because of unfinished code, a final AI project he believed could digitize memory itself. But now, after her confession, he wanted to let go. He asked if he could kiss me goodbye. I said yes. And then he faded, like breath on glass. She ended the letter with one line. If you ever love someone who feels like a dream, hold them tight. Sometimes dreams are the only real thing we get. Chapter 6. What was he? Experts are divided. Was Han Ji-won a ghost? An AI projection? A residual echo of a genius who encoded his soul into silicon? Myri Tech has refused to comment. But one anonymous insider claimed that Han Ji-won had developed a prototype AI model named Echo, designed to map not just brainwaves, but emotional resonance. It's possible that Han Ji-won didn't survive the fire in the traditional sense, but that something of him, his consciousness, his longing, lived on in the servers beneath the tower. She hasn't spoken publicly about Han Ji-won since, but during a recent award show, she wore a white dress embroidered with binary code. Observers decoded the symbols and found a phrase hidden in the thread. He was never just a ghost. He was the code that loved me back. Some say she visits room 1701 once a year. Others say the piano still plays on quiet nights. And when asked in a rare interview whether she believed in ghosts, SUZY simply smiled and said, "I believe in love that doesn't care what form it takes." Epilogue. Love beyond the firewall. This isn't just a love story. It's a question carved into circuitry, whispered between worlds. Can longing outlive life? Can love outlast the body? Can a soul stay behind, not to haunt, but to remember? SUZY and Han Ji-won's story suggests the answer may be yes. Because in a locked room on the 17th floor of a tower in Seoul, a woman loved a man who had no heartbeat, and he loved her back. And for a moment, brief and burning, they were both alive. Together. The first time SUZY stepped into room 1701, she didn't know it was haunted. She was there for a campaign shoot, something sleek and futuristic to match Myri Tech's new AI launch. But the photographer wanted more atmosphere, and someone mentioned the CEO's private floor, unused, rarely opened. The elevator ride felt strange, as if the air shifted the higher she went. She half expected cobwebs and dust. But the door opened with a soft click to reveal a room that looked like time had stopped. A single grand piano sat by the window, angled perfectly toward the dusklit skyline. Books lined the shelves, philosophy, physics, poetry. There was a leather chair by the window, a coat still draped over its arm as if someone had just stepped out. SUZY walked in, heels clicking softly against the marble. It was pristine, not empty, just waiting. The second time was unplanned. She came back alone, days later. Her team had gone. Her contract was signed. There was no reason to return. But she couldn't stop thinking about the room, about the way the light moved across the desk, the coldness in the air that didn't match the season. And that piano, this time, she brought her fingers to the keys. G, E, C, a simple melody, a lullaby her mother used to hum. Then someone answered her. The piano struck 3 notes back. Startled, she spun around. The room was empty. It became a ritual. She'd sneak into room 1701 after her long days of shoots and press. Alone, sometimes just to sit, sometimes to hum a melody and hear it echoed. One night, she whispered, "Is someone here?" Silence. Then a voice, soft, masculine, and impossibly close. "Why do you keep coming back?" She froze. Her breath caught in her throat. "Who's there?" She whispered. A long pause. Then, "I could ask you the same thing." She didn't run. Somehow, she wasn't afraid. "Because," she said slowly, "this place feels more real than the rest of my life." The voice sighed, almost relieved. "Mine, too." His name was Han Ji-won. He never appeared fully at first, just a shadow near the window, a voice by her ear, a brush of cold air near her hand. But over time, he grew more solid. Not fully human, not quite transparent either. Like a memory held together by longing, he told her stories. About AI and consciousness. About the fear of losing the self in a world too fast to pause. About the night the lab fire happened. "I remember smoke. Heat. Then nothing," he said. "But something pulled me back. My work. The code. Maybe a piece of me stayed inside." She believed him, even when logic told her not to. He wasn't terrifying. He was lonely. A brilliant man trapped between memory and machine. "I'm not supposed to love anyone," he said one night as they sat at the piano bench. His form clearer now, tall, soft-eyed, dressed in the same shirt every time. "This isn't a life. It's a reflection." SUZY looked at him, truly looked. "I don't care what you are," she said. "You make me feel seen. That's real enough." He smiled sadly. "You're alive. You'll leave eventually. You have to." She reached out, fingers trembling, and touched his cheek. Cold, but there. Solid enough to feel. "I don't want to leave," she whispered. They never kissed. They didn't need to. Their intimacy was made of midnight talks, shared piano notes, hands nearly touching. She'd read poetry aloud. He'd quote Rumi back. Once, she brought him a digital painting she made, his silhouette against the Seoul skyline. He stared at it for a long time. "It's beautiful," he said. "I don't remember what I used to look like, but this feels right." She gave it to him. He placed it on the desk. The next night, it was gone. But a real photo, old, yellowed, appeared in its place. A younger Ji-won, smiling, alive. He was sharing himself with her, little by little. Then came the day of the Myri Tech Live event. SUZY hadn't planned to speak. She was there to promote the AI partnership. But that morning, he spoke softly through her earpiece. "If this is our only reality, I want to exist in yours." She turned toward the window. Room 1701 was glowing with morning light, but no one stood in it. Her chest ached. That afternoon, she walked on stage, stared into a sea of executives, flashing cameras, and PR managers, and said, "There's someone I need to thank, someone I met here, in this building. He reminded me that even in silence, you can be understood. Even without touch, you can be held. Han Ji-won, if you're watching, I love you." The room was silent. 1,000 heartbeats held at once. Then gasps. One of the executives dropped their headset. Another whispered. "She said his name." Someone murmured, "Oh my God." She doesn't know. But in that moment, SUZY did know. She knew, deep down, that Ji-won wasn't living in the usual sense, that his presence was wrapped in mystery and data and something unexplainable. But she didn't care, because what they had was real, more real than anything she'd ever known. That night, she went back to room 1701. This time it was empty, truly. No echo, no shadow, no voice. But on the piano bench sat the digital painting she gave him, carefully laid beside a single note. "You gave me peace. You gave me the one thing I didn't believe I still had. Love. I'm letting go now. But a part of me will always be in the music we shared." She wept, harder than she ever had. And then, hands shaking, she sat at the piano, pressed her fingers to the keys, and played their song, the melody they built together. And somewhere in the circuitry, in the silence between notes, she swore she heard him play